How did sitting next to Washington Post photographer and two-time Pulitzer Prize winner Michael Williamson on a flight from Baltimore to Chicago change or inform your career trajectory?
He had a really big impact on my life, which is kind of interesting in that, we can always have those impacts on people whether we know it or not.
Right.
But I was working for Anderson Consulting, which is now Accenture. I was on a project in Baltimore, and I would sort of fly out Monday mornings, fly home Friday nights. It was terrible. And it was my birthday. It was my 23rd birthday. And I was getting into my seat, and there was this guy kind of coming in. He was loading this photographic equipment. And I was like, I usually don't talk to people on airplanes, usually, especially after a big week like that. I was like, all I want to do is maybe take a little nap and then get home. And but I asked him, I was like, what are you loading up here? This is just tons of stuff that he was even allowed to carry on. And he's like, well, I'm a photographer. I work for the Washington Post. I'm on my way to the U.S.-Mexican border to ride with the Mexican mounted police on sort of drug patrol. I was like, that's awesome. I just got done working to change the human resources benefit system for the state of Maryland's Department of Transportation. And it was like this. It was this huge wake up that this guy's doing really cool stuff with his life, and here I am, 23, and he's out there. He's going to ride horseback with the mounted police, on drug raids, and I'm worried about what my boss thinks my tie looks like, and whether I'm stuffing enough away in my 401k. This is really the wrong. This is just wrong. So we actually had a great talk. He was a really cool guy, and he ended up writing this book that Bruce Springsteen had read, and he ended up writing the album Ghost of Tom Joad based on seeing this book of photography this guy had done. And so I went home that night, and it was a really rainy night, and a bunch of it was just crazy rain, streets flooding up to your knees rain. And I got home, I didn't know where anybody was. This was before people had cell phones. And I went over to a friend's house, knocked on the door, and a bunch of people were hanging out. And the power had gone out, and people had some bottles of wine and cheese, and had some candles, and just someone had a radio with had batteries. We were listening, just kind of hanging out, talking about what we were doing with our lives. I was recounting this cool guy that I just met on this airplane who was doing this really amazing thing, and how what are we doing? And I made the decision that night that this was not how my life was going to be. I knew I didn't like the job I was in, and I knew that I had to make a choice at one point or another to take a different path. And I didn't have any idea what that meant, but I made the decision that night that I was going to figure out whatever that was, and I did.